Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hi guys, and welcome to 1minutetennis.com. In today's session, I want to talk to you about the difference between the forehand that's predominantly used on the women's tour, the WTA forehand, and the forehand that's predominantly used on the men's tour, the ATP forehand. I want to show you what those differences are, why they occur, because very few people seem to understand why they really occur, and then which forehand you should adopt in your game. Now in the ATP forehand, you see the elbow go back first and the racket predominantly staying on the right side of the body. So the elbow first, and then the swing of the racket is visible on the right side of the body. You can see from this direction, the elbow going back first, and then there's the swing of the racket. On the WTA tour, then usually we see the elbow going back low and behind the body. So here. And this results in the racket also being placed behind the body and a much longer swing. So back here, elbow still low, racket high, and then swing. We look at the two next to each other, ATP and WTA. Now there are many similarities in these two strokes. The leg drive, the rotation of the body, the contact point is very similar or the same. But these two forehands generate power in very different ways. Now the different sources of power in the two forehands is that in the ATP forehand, we tend to use a stretch shortening cycle in the forearm and wrist. And in the WTA forehand, the extra power is generated with leverage. Now a stretch shortening cycle is where the muscle is stretched out and then contracts very quickly. So it has an eccentric and then recoils into a concentric contraction. A simple demonstration of this is if I put my arm here and then pull it forwards. There's no stretch shortening cycle. Now if I put it against resistance and push it backwards and it snaps back, this is a stretch shortening cycle, and there's a lot more energy created. But in the ATP forehand, that stretch shortening cycle is in the forearm here. And the biggest difference in strength between men and women generally, by far in any part of the body, is in this forearm muscle here. It's not in the shoulders, it's not in the biceps. You can get a bodybuilder with fantastic biceps, but her forearm here will still be smaller than the average guy. This is the biggest difference, and this is where that lag and snap is created and the stretch shortening cycle actually occurs. For a lot of girls, this is an uncomfortable feeling. This is an out of control feeling where they lose the consistency and precision of the ball. So to counteract that, in the WTA forehand, there is a longer, more languid stroke. The elbow stays low, the racket goes high, and there's a longer stroke, creating more leverage. The power of the stroke is about the same, but the ATP forehand is a more compact movement, and it creates more spin on the ball. So in theory, it's always a better forehand. But that doesn't mean that some of the female forehands are not incredible strokes. And also, some men in the past, Fernando Gonzalez, David Ferrer, they use either the WTA forehand, in Gonzalez's case, and it was the biggest forehand in the world at the time, or a blend between the two. Of the females that play with the ATP forehand, they tend to be shorter. Justine Henin had an incredible ATP forehand. She was 1.67 m, 5'6". In today's game, Daria Kazakhskina has a wonderful ATP forehand, but again, she's 1 meter, I think 171. So for her, the stretch shortening cycle is pretty good because the forearm is short and therefore there's less leverage to resist against it. But for the taller girls, even very powerful women such as Sabalenka and Serena Williams, then the WTA forehand was easier because as well as being very strong, they had very long limbs. So those are the differences between the two. Now applying them into your game becomes interesting because first of all, if you have a short, strong build, then almost certainly the ATP forehand is the best stroke for you. But if you're taller with longer limbs, then it may be that the WTA style forehand is a better stroke. Look at it this way. If you're mishitting a lot, then think about going to the WTA style forehand and seeing what happens to experiment with it. If you're creating a lot of topspin but no real penetration with your stroke, then again, think about changing to that lower elbow position and bigger take back because you'll definitely get more penetration as soon as you do that. It's worth playing with them, especially if you fall into those two categories. So there's the differences between the men's and the women's forehands, and that's the real reason why. Well, now you know this, maybe you can play with it and find a combination to get the right forehand for you. I hope this makes sense. I'd love to know what you think of my thoughts on the difference between the guys and the girls' forehands. If you like my ideas, have a look at our books on Amazon. We provide detailed scientific breakdowns of the strokes and then super simple solutions with very clear illustrations, making it easy to understand and very easy to apply. And if you really want to make change to your game, have a look at what we're doing with online coaching. We're helping players in over 30 countries of all ages and all levels with a unique blend of video analysis and then one-to-one personalised lessons such as this. For more information, have a look at the website or email me for details. So, which is the right forehand for you? The ATP forehand, the compact, heavy spin, stretch shortening cycle using the forearm, or the long, languid and smooth movement that you predominantly see on the women's tour? Try it out, let me know what works for you. Thanks for watching and see you next time for more unique tennis lessons that really work.